Wow, that's a tough one. Well, we hope, through our audit, not to be too cliche, but there's some path there. And again, I think the state's got to figure out what its strategy is. As we've noted, the governor's declared this an emergency. We've got a high-powered task force, so it's a kind of an all hands. But just like anything, and I'm just kind of going out on the limb here, but this is a community issue. This isn't going to be solved just by government. And so, the more we can educate, which is part of what we're doing here, part of how we wrote our audit report, hopefully it's compelling. I hope you turn some pages. There's some great graphics in there and things like that really help educating folks. Because as you say, most of us know somebody in our life or in our realm that's been, in fact, impacted negatively by opioids. So I think there's just some will and just making, a compelling argument how we balance privacy, because that's an important, American concept as well. But when we see, though we don't want to do a direct correlation just to PDMP to the actual, all the metrics, it's not that simple. We have this compelling evidence from other states. This quite rare in performance auditing show that if you administer the system, you're at least going to start making a dent. And maybe you can see it'll more data, more analysis, the more you're able to see where you have gaps and redundancies, and you can keep flourishing out the program. But I just think it's will. Do you have anything to add?
I was just going to echo that. My answer was going to be that data helps us inform us, and it helps educate us and our policymakers on how big is the problem, where does Oregon stack up, is this happening? And until we're actually using that data, looking at that data, and informing the public and others, what's happening here in Oregon. Once you start doing that, you can't turn a blind eye to it anymore. And I think that starts getting the word out that we do have a problem here in Oregon, and we can't ignore it. And there are some actions we can take. And, like Kip had mentioned earlier, the PDMP is just one tool. It's not the silver bullet, but it is an important tool, and we can use it to its full ability.
And one thing we didn't flesh out a lot because of scope and other considerations, but there's a huge fiscal cost, as you alluded to, on this as well. Not just a human cost, but there's a lot of money that can in terms of people being being hospitalized because of poor prescription policies that could be avoided. And so there's other impacts out of this that should draw. If you can't compel them on the human side, there's a financial side too from a taxpayer.
Yeah, this is a topic that impacts so many services in so many areas and so many people. It affects our foster care program. It affects our school system. Those babies that are born addicted to opioids, they've got to go through the rest of their life, sometimes with learning disabilities, sometimes with extra doctors, extra care, extra strain on our programs, and it affects so many areas. So that's why it's so critical. Did you want to add anything too?
Sure, I can add from the personal side. It was quite a conversation that I had to have with my family back east if I was going to present our story. There was a deep discussion, and my sister was just waving the flag. She said, "Tell people." So for so many years, she was ashamed. She thought she had failed as a mom, and no more. She said that everyone who has this in their life has got to come forward and start helping each other and helping strangers. And the only way we can do that is by the things that we're doing, our audits, and bringing the numbers to light so people can see it, but then putting the human face on it and to see how devastating it is, not just to the individual substance abuser, but the tentacles that reach out to family. And so many of us tried to help him, and I think possibly if we had been more open about it and we found out later that other families, friends were struggling with the same thing, and if you could have helped each other and created an internal community. And it was very hard for me to tell you the story about Alex. It's very emotional, and it was many years of struggling. So, but I'm past the hump, and I think that I might become some kind of an advocate and do whatever I can now and wave the flag like my sister said and tell people and reach out and help. So I think that is going to make a difference, I hope.
Thank you.